Ohio State, they're up 10-6 against Indiana. Big Ten championship game. Kind of what it's what I expected, but it's not, if that makes any sense. I definitely think Ohio State right now has the better defense, but Indiana, it looks like, has the better offense, or not the better offense, but the more consistent offense, the offense that's able to put together those consistent drives, which is not really what I expected. I thought, Ohio State's defense would be able to shut Indiana down, and not so far in the first half. Now, Indiana only does have 6 points, but Indiana looks like they could, especially late in this game, if it's close, they could start chipping away at the Ohio State defense, which is not really what we want for Ohio if you're an Ohio State fan. But Omar Cooper is out probably for the rest of the game. He had a leg injury at the very early on in the first quarter, and he was limping off, and then I believe that was him on the sideline. Didn't have his helmet, and looked like he was in pain to even sit down. So we'll see what happens with that. He's likely out for the rest of the game. Hopefully he can get back for the playoff, because no one wants to see anybody get injured. But hopefully he's back for the playoff. But you never know. So hopefully he's okay. He was walking by himself. He was not in any sort of cast or anything, so it doesn't look like it's going to be like a torn ACL or torn Achilles or anything like that. We just got to wait and see. Maybe it's the same thing as with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, that lingering type injury. If it is, he'll be out for a few weeks, and that's huge if you're Indiana, to not have one of your top wide receivers, a guy that Mendoza has been able to count on for a good chunk of the playoffs. And against teams, even if Indiana does have a bye, he might not play in Indiana's first game of the playoff if it's a similar nagging injury that Tate and Jeremiah Smith had. But I'm not going to speculate about that. I didn't even realize Zen Michalski was on Indiana. That's crazy to me. I remember, if anyone does not know who Zen Michalski is, he is an offensive tackle for Indiana now. He was an offensive tackle for Ohio State when Ohio State last year had a bunch of offensive line problems and had injuries. And they were finding, was it Simmons who went down in the Oregon game? He went down with a season-ending injury, and Ohio State was trying to find answers for his position. Zen Michalski, the first game against Nebraska that year, after the Oregon game, was put in as the starting tackle, and he was horrible in that game. And if you remember, before that Michigan game, that was the closest we've seen Ohio State to losing in that year, besides, of course, the Oregon game. That was the weakest Ohio State looked. You can argue that's probably the weakest it looked all year, and Ohio State won that game. So he was bad at Ohio State. So he transfers to Indiana, and I didn't even realize, but Indiana is also having injury problems on their offensive line this year, and Michalski is at a tackle position. And he's getting absolutely obliterated by Caden Curry. And Caden Curry is not Joey Bosa. He's not Nick Bosa. He's not Chase Young. He might not even be Jack Sawyer. So the fact that Caden Curry is absolutely obliterating him, and he's having Caden Curry a monster game so far. He had a huge hit against Mendoza, like the first drop back Mendoza had. He nails Mendoza, had to come out for a play. Looked like he kind of got the wind knocked out of him. I honestly thought that he dislocated his shoulder. It was so bad. But Mendoza was down for a little bit. His brother came in. They handed the ball off, and Mendoza came back out. So Caden Curry is having a really good game. Sand did throw another early interception. Not what you want to see. We cannot let this be a habit. We cannot live in a world where Ohio State is throwing one interception and forcing the defense to come up and make plays and stop the offenses from converting those interceptions into touchdowns. Luckily, last week and this week, Ohio State was able to do that. Can they do that consistently? No. The defense is good. They're not that good. And they're great. They're one of the best defenses we've seen this era of college football. So I'm not saying that this defense is bad by any means. I'm saying no defense with on the same level as each other is going to be able to hold these offenses again and again and again in the red zone when your offense is just putting your defense in the red zone. Same thing, the Browns, if watch any Browns games. Browns offense does this to the Browns defense a lot. Browns defense is the best in the NFL. The Browns defense gives up touchdowns in those situations. Not all the time, but some of the time. So we can't do that. Sayin can't do that. And he, honestly, it looks like kind of what I thought Mendoza was going to look like. I thought Mendoza, especially in the early part of this game, was going to look kind of confused at what Ohio State was throwing at them. Mendoza looks like he knows. It looks like this defense is getting to him, but it's a back and forth type thing. The only plays that Sayin has really made was the wide open plays with JJ downfield. And he made a play happen, and that's good on Julian Sayin. He improvised and threw that ball to Tate. So I'm not saying that Sayin is playing bad at all. I'm saying that he looks kind of confused on what Indiana is giving him. I don't think he's faced the defense where they play this much zone. And Indiana plays the most zone coverage out of anybody in the country. So, you got to be able, if you're saying, to find those seams in those zones, which is hard to do when, you're scrambling out like that. And they have been open. Sayin missed a Brandon Innes on a very it was a deep seam route, and that probably would have went for a touchdown maybe if he hits him in stride, and he missed him, and that's okay. Definitely not gonna fault Sayin for that. Every quarterback's gonna miss those, but it is frustrating. He did throw the interception. We cannot have that, especially against this Indiana team that is really, really good. These are two of the top 3 best teams in the entire country. I don't think anyone is doubting that anymore. But we got to make sure that we capitalize on the opportunities that Indiana is giving us, which we did. Igbenogson got his second interception in 2 games, which was great. I know Indiana fans in the stadium were complaining about a pass interference call that was not called. It was a no call, and from my understanding, it looked early, but the Joel Klatt said on the broadcast that is legal if he's behind the line of scrimmage. I didn't look it up, so I don't know. If that is a rule, then that sucks. But, Cignetti was calling for the flag. The Indiana fans in the stadium were booing, so they were calling for the flag. If that's a rule, cool. And if it's not, then that's the refs. And, they're going to miss calls. So, good play by, was it Lorenzo Styles? I think it was Lorenzo Styles that batted the ball, ended up making contact and batting the ball in the air. And then Iggy came up and made the play. So, it's a good half so far. Ohio State does get the ball to start the second half. So, if Ohio State can capitalize and get a touchdown, that's going to be huge. That is huge because that makes it a 2-possession game. So, it was huge that Ohio State, honestly, it was a mistake from Cignetti to not at least take one shot at the end of the half. The fact that he ran that ball out and is basically like, all right, trust my defense. I don't know if that's a winning strategy by Cignetti. I think if Ohio State wins this game, then Cignetti's going to be kicking himself for that. Because Indiana has done that before. Oregon, they did it. Penn State, at the end of the game, but Penn State, they did it. So, it's not out of the realm of possibilities for Indiana to do that. And they ran the ball out, which is fine. And if their defense gets a stop, then whatever, it's no harm, no foul for Cignetti. But if Ohio State can score on this first drive of the second half, that's going to be a mistake that he's going to look back on and at least say, why didn't I just give Mendoza a chance? Put the ball in Mendoza's hands. And only time will tell how bad that call was or how good that call was. But right now, they got to get the ball to JJ. And, Indiana is going to dial up some different looks for Sayin. And it is up to Sayin to recognize those. And hopefully he can figure it out in the second half. Maybe somebody talks to him and they see something that I have not seen. Indiana's defense looks really, really good right now. But only time will tell. Mendoza does worry me a little bit. He looks like he's getting more and more confident as this game rolls along. But like I said, Ohio State gets the ball in the second half. And if Ohio State can capitalize and put points on the board, that's going to make it a bit tougher for Indiana. And Ohio State has not trailed in the second half all season. So I don't know. I do think that Indiana probably gets above 20 points. I think they're going to break that, the 20-point streak that Ohio State has not given up. We'll see, though. Like, Ohio State could very, very well on defense come out and just shut down Indiana's offense. That is a possibility. Is it likely? No. Is it a possibility? Yes. So, this is why we pay Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline, and that's why Brian Hartline got the South Florida job. This is why we pay them that much. So they got to be able to do it. Sands got to be able to recognize some of those coverages that Indiana is putting out on the field. And Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson, they both got to keep getting to Mendoza, because the more and more you get to Mendoza, the more and more that he's going to feel in the back of his head, how paranoid, and that's how you beat Mendoza. You got to get him paranoid. You got to get him antsy. And especially since Omar Cooper is likely out for the rest of this game, Ohio State can double team the number one wide receiver, whose name escapes me at this point. But you got to be able to double team him. And it sucks. Injuries are part of the game, though. And, that's unfortunate. So we'll see about the second half. I still think Ohio State wins. I don't think that it was going to be as comfortable as I thought it was going to be. This game is definitely going to probably put my heart into a little bit more fast-paced beating than I expected it. My voice is probably going to feel it tomorrow, but it's worth it for an Ohio State fan that has not seen a Big Ten championship since 2020. This is worth it. I love it. I do love that Gus and Joel are on the call at night. This is what we want as college football fans. We remember the prime Fox where Gus and Joel were on at night, and I miss that. So this is nice to have that back a little bit. All right, my bad. So as I was saying, it is nice to have Gus and Joel back on at night. But I'm just going to wrap this up here. I was going on for a little bit, and I decided to cut myself off. So I'm just going to end it here. I'll be back for postgame. We'll see what happens. Go Bucks.